Hi, everybody. My name's Travis Miner, and I'm here from Open Door Education to speak with Jennifer Stephan, who is the founder and owner of Lantern College Counseling. Jennifer is here today to talk with us about the college search for students who are undecided about their college major. Jennifer, to start off with, could you give us a little bit of background about what are college majors and why do we have them in the first place?
That's a great question and a great place to start, Travis. The role of a major is to provide depth to a student's education and the skills that develop through rich engagement with an academic topic. No matter what the topic, it really doesn't matter. The process of engaging deeply with the topic is a set of skills that are valuable. Most arts and sciences majors consist of 10 or more courses within an academic discipline across various levels, including introductory to advanced. And they typically, the major courses, those courses that comprise the major, typically make up a third of a student's undergraduate degree. Very often there are other requirements that wrap around the major, I like to say, if you will, things such as distribution or core requirements. You may have heard those terms, or gen ed requirements. These are requirements that round out the student's education and provide breadth. So the major is depth. The other requirements are breadth. These requirements usually represent about another third of a student's undergraduate degree, leaving about a third for the student to, explore in a second major or use for other academic goals, for instance.
That's really interesting. I've never heard it broken down that way, and it's helpful to sort of get that sense of the strategy of having both the breadth and the depth.
Yep.
Uh, so we're asking 17-year-old students to make this huge decision about their future. And I'm sure many students, as I did, are having a tough time deciding what should I major in. How can a high school student start to explore their options and consider what they might want to major in while they're still in high school?
So another great question. There are so many ways to support a high school student as they begin to develop a sense of their academic direction. And I will say many students go off to college still not knowing. And that's, in fact, in many cases, absolutely developmentally appropriate. But there are some ways in which we can support students while they're in high school to begin to, maybe they're here, start to move like this and narrow down their choices. Maybe they don't know what they want to major in, but they know some things they don't want to major in, as an example, and that can be a great place to start. So a couple suggestions. A student's high school experience provides a lot of information and a lot of clues, if you will, on possible potential majors. Areas in which students excel and positively challenge themselves suggest potential future majors. A second set of ways to sort of think about what a possible major might be for a student is to take a look at how they spend their free time. What type of books do they read? What podcasts do they listen to? What do they talk about? What do they seek out in their free time? That sheds light on possible academic interests. There are tools out there that students can use that allow them to explore themselves in majors and careers that may match their personality and their strengths. A few are Use Science or the MBTI that exists. And also My Majors is a tool that's out there, and there are many others as well. So students can play around with some of those. There are also many majors that students, one thing I want everyone to be aware of is that there are also many majors that students are just not going to be exposed to in high school. They may not even know what these majors mean. They might not even know that they exist. So students can access various websites to learn about possible majors that they may not have heard of. There's the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, which includes information actually about careers and what the educational preparation is required for certain careers. And that is a way students can learn about majors. There are other sites out there. What can I do with this major? Or College Board's Big Future, and many, many others. But this is one place I direct high school students, is to start exploring these. Students can look at LinkedIn profiles of professionals and their educational backgrounds that may help them understand how to map to a career. If they know somebody who has a job that sounds cool to them, how did that person get there? What was their path? Another thing that they can begin doing or engage in is take what are they doing with their summers, or what are they also doing during their academic year? They can pick courses if possible, if there's room in their schedule, but also over the summer, engage in activities that will help them gain insights into what they like, what they don't like, experiment. If they think they might be interested in architecture, take a MOOC, a massive online open course, which I mentioned because it's free. I don't want to just say that the activities might have to be pay for an expensive summer course at a university about architecture. That is an option as well. But look for an opportunity to learn about architecture, and maybe you do and you engage in that and you learn you don't like it. That's very valuable, as I said earlier. They should seek opportunities to learn from others. Talk to people. Everybody they talk to, they'll learn from. High schools sometimes provide formal experiences or opportunities for students to talk to people. For instance, in my local community, I live in Boxborough, and I volunteer every single year at AB, to Boxborough High School, on career days. And I talk about higher ed, jobs in higher ed and careers in higher ed. It's always a really fun activity. Go to those types of activities. Some high schools provide opportunities to shadow people in jobs. If you can do that, do that. Informational interviews with friends, family, other community members can also be valuable. And lastly, deep engagement with the college search process over time will facilitate development of the student's academic direction.
It sounds like there's a lot of resources out there for folks that take the initiative to engage in them, and that it's wonderful to hear that it also doesn't have to be expensive summer programs. That if you look for it, it's out there, and you've given us some great resources to start with. I fondly remember a student I was working with who was working during the summer at a fast food restaurant, and he never thought that he'd find his passion there. But it turned out all of the business management techniques and the considerations around costs and supply chains, he discovered, I want to study business and finance, and it was from working at a fast food place. So
you learn from everything, and you learn from every conversation you have, sometimes just a little bit, sometimes a lot. It does take putting yourself out there a little bit and being open to it, as you describe your student, but that's great. That's a great story.
I love the idea of the process of elimination too, that it can be daunting to think, what do I want to major in, but what do I not want to major in, right? Sounds like a nice entry point.
Yep, absolutely.
So what does it mean to be a student who's applying to college who doesn't know what their major is, who's still undecided?
Right. It's not that complicated. It's as the word suggests. It's a student who's unsure of and uncommitted to what they want to major in. And there are a lot of colleges that support undecided students in the application process, that have either an open, students don't have to declare at the time of application what they want to study. Schools such as small liberal arts colleges, for instance, or schools of arts and sciences at universities. Some institutions, often but not always, they are larger state institutions, again, not always, expect students to apply to a specific major. Those are not, and they admit students to a specific major, those are not a good fit for undecided students. So when I work with an undecided student, I'm seeking, and there are over 3,000 colleges and universities in the United States, and so there are thousands that welcome undecided students, and we look for those. We look for those schools that are going to support them, provide academic advising, and also the flexibility, the curricular flexibility to explore academic interests. So, taking a look at those types of schools is what I do with students when they come to me and they're really not sure what they want to study.
It sounds like there's a lot of potentially great options for undecided students. Is being undecided a disadvantage in some cases when a student's applying?
Well, it depends. And in fact, the answer to almost every question I tell my students is it depends. At some schools, of course, at others, not at all. And if you're undecided, then don't worry about the ones where it's a disadvantage, because it's not a good match school for you. There are going to be 1,000 plus 2,000 schools out there that will welcome you and support you. Plenty of schools that will provide that curricular flexibility. And so those are the schools you should seek where it's not a disadvantage being undecided.
You've referenced some of the important things that students might think about in terms of colleges that would support them applying as an undecided student. Are there key indicators or things that maybe whether on a campus tour or on a college website that would suggest to a student this is a place that's supportive of undecided students?
It's a great question. You're full of great questions today, Travis. I think I've said that 3 or 4 times now, which is I'm teasing myself. Um, yeah, it can be difficult to tease out, and I always tell students, to when I work with students, I teach them how to research a college or university deeply on its website. Of course, I have some insights. I have go-to schools that I know provide that type of flexibility and support. But if you don't have me, or if it's a school I don't have that information about, taking a look at the website is a place to start. And sometimes you can find it. If you take a look at MIT's website, I don't quote me on this because I don't have the quote at my fingertips, but they actually have written front and center on one of their sites, one of their pages, when a student is admitted to this institution, every major is available to them, period, full stop. So you're admitted. They say you're admitted to the institution. And I think if anyone wants to Google this, I think they use the words kid in a candy shop. So if you want to write MIT kid in a candy shop, you might get to that page and find it. They say when students come here, they feel like a kid in a candy shop because everything is available to them. So some schools put that front and center. Other schools, imply through sort of parameterized language about how many majors and impacted majors and how to get into a major or what you have to do to be admitted to a major. Those are cues. These are not schools that are as welcoming. It depends. I say that again, it depends to students who are undecided. And then if all else fails, and if you can't find that information, and sometimes even students themselves on a college tour, the students giving the tour, tour guides don't know. So if all else fails, write to your regional admissions officer, which is a wonderful way to demonstrate interest and make a connection with the officer, and ask that question. I'm interested in business. I'm also interested in engineering. If I apply to the School of Business, can I later switch into the School of Engineering, or vice versa? And let's say I applied to the School of Engineering and I'd like to also maybe get a business minor. Is that possible? Because I see that you have 2 different schools, where School of Business and a School of Engineering. And how does that work? Do you have high walls between your schools, or do you have low walls where it's really easy to move between the schools and to go across, have cross school collaboration and engagement? So, yeah, did that answer your question, Travis?
It does, and that's such great guidance to students, not only about what to look for, but also that if you're not finding what you look for, reach out and ask and make contact with someone at the school who can answer your questions and help you to see if that school is going to be a good fit. And I can't, of course, there's an important place for the schools where a student applies with a specific major and is on a very clear track. I can't help but feel, though, that the idea of being a kid at a candy store, that you have all of these options open to you, is really like there's something that feels really fundamental about the goal of higher education, in being able to explore different paths and find the one that's right for you. Which sort of leads me to my next question, which is, once, let's say, a student applies undecided, they get in, they are a kid in a candy store. Once they're on campus, how can an undecided student start to hone in on an individual major and go about making that difficult choice?
Absolutely. So they should engage deeply with all of the resources available at their institution. There are a host of a slew of people available, hired, that are eager, excited to help. And students should reach out. They should seek advice from academic advisors early and often. These are people who are dedicated to this question: what do you want to major in? What are the resources at this institution that you can engage in to learn more about your major? The courses a student takes can be instrumental in helping them to learn what they want to major in. Through their classes, they will discover their likes and their dislikes, as we said earlier, the negatives, what is not a good choice. Students should work to develop mentoring relationships with faculty and staff. The faculty, the staff are going to help the student over time. These relationships, they're rich resources that help students develop their professional and academic identities. I always like to say to students, you should approach figuring out your major the way that you approach something like any other long-term goal like nutrition or exercise or physical wellness or mental wellness. These things are not things that you decide in one day. Oh, I'm going to get fit today and tomorrow you're fit. No, it's a process over time that you engage with over time, systemically in a sustained fashion. And so, some examples of concrete steps that students can take that are small, that are manageable over time, they can sprinkle throughout. Like if they set aside, I don't know, it depends, and it doesn't have to be rigid, but an hour a week or one thing a week that you're going to do to advance this question of what you want to major in or what you might want to do with your career. And, of course, that can ebb and flow, and you can skip a week or do more one week if you get turned on by something or really excited and down one path that's super exciting to you. But some examples of concrete steps that a student can take include visiting their career center, attending a talk or an event sponsored by a potential major department. And these go on all week long, all semester long on a college campus. There's activities all over. Go to one a week, for instance, as one example, or one a semester and every other week do one of these other activities. Connect with an alum in a field of interest for an informational interview, practice your interviewing skills, build your network, and the Career Center at your institution can help with this. They have databases of alums, and alums love to do this. And maintain your Career Center will probably teach you how to maintain maybe Excel or other, type of document spreadsheet that you write down your contacts that you make and who you spoke with when and how to contact them and what you talked about. And then maybe put a tickler on your calendar to reach back out to them in 6 months or 12 months. You're building your network, and that's going to be hugely helpful for opportunities in the future, but also learning from these people. As I said earlier, talk to as many people as you can. You learn from every conversation. Read an article or listen to a podcast about a potential major or an area of interest. You can update your resume. The Career Center can help with that as well. Some career centers have job fairs or workshops, a couple of days set aside to provide a whole suite of exercises and tools for students. And so that's something where administrators sit and present or give guidance. And that's something to keep an eye out for. Create and maintain a LinkedIn profile. I tell all of my students that I work with at high school, right now I'm writing to them because it's April 24th as we're talking today, Travis. Don't know when this conversation will be on your website, but they're making their decisions right now by the May 1 deadline. And I write them a little thank you note and I send them a little gift. And in my thank you note, I say, when you create a LinkedIn, please connect with me, because I'm now part of your network and helping you move forward. This can be scary for students, but reach out to professors in a potential major department and ask them about their work. There is nothing that professors love more than talking about themselves and their work. So reach out to them. And I can say that as a former professor, I taught for 14 years computer science at Wellesley College. And it's fun to talk with students who are excited and what you're excited about. Connect, once you have your LinkedIn set up, connect with a professor, a mentor, an alum, or an alumni network, or some other, network on LinkedIn. Build your network. Talk to someone about their interests. Every conversation's a learning experience. I mentioned earlier, there are activities all over campus that all semester long, talks by various people from industry or in various departments or from other universities, thought leaders come to campus. And these are usually announced through newsletters shared by potential major departments. So get on the email list for a potential major department. I have 3 daughters, 20, 23, and 26, and my 20-year-old's a sophomore in college. And she, in many cases, in a liberal arts environment, you declare your major, usually in March 1st, often the spring of your sophomore year, but you can declare it earlier. And she had declared her major back in the fall, her sophomore year. And doing so, she signed up for the newsletter for her major department, which happens to be environmental studies. And right away started getting all sorts of information about summer internships. And she's applied for a whole bunch of summer internships. And if she had waited until May 1st and declared on May 1st or didn't sign up for the newsletter, she wouldn't have had that experience. And so keep your eyes and ears open. And even if she hadn't applied for these summer internships, still you're learning as you see them. When you see a job, what are they seeking? What are they asking for? What types of skills are they looking for? What would you be doing? Is that interesting to you? You learn from all of these types of experiences. I mentioned earlier, attend a job fair. Again, examine the LinkedIn profiles of people who are doing cool jobs that excite you, and how did you get there? Look at job postings. I just made reference to that to see which ones intrigue you and what education and skills they require. Lots of clubs and organizations available on a college campus that may be connected to academic interests, whether it be Engineers Without Borders, or whether it be a finance club, or whether it be, some other, even if you're interested in psychology, you could, wonder if you're wondering about being a clinical psychologist, well, do Ears for Peers, which is a national organization, which is on campuses, and try out talking to your peers and seeing if you enjoy that type of experience. All of these activities, lead to your having greater understanding about different jobs. Ideally, through such steps, students will identify what they're good at, what they enjoy, and what they can get paid for doing, and also what will reward society, and use the intersection of those four things to guide their direction.
That is such wonderful advice. And I so appreciate how, I guess I can't help but picture a student trying to figure out their major and sort of like by themselves on their laptop looking up information. And this idea of like going out into the world and meeting people and talking to people and developing these networks and relationships, that figuring out your place in the world or your path in college is not a solitary exercise, but one that involves learning from and with other people. And I have to imagine that just the process of exploring also helps to build long-term personal and professional relationships, which is one of the wonderful things about college. This is such fantastic guidance, and
Glad.
I hope that this lands for students who also might be in a place where they're thinking, I don't know what I want to major in, and that's a problem, because it doesn't have to be. It's this amazing opportunity.
Absolutely. No, are there students that know exactly what they want to do? I think you made reference to this earlier, Travis. I forget the context, but I was going to jump in and I didn't want to interrupt you and say, I think it's a shame that we seem in admissions to be moving more and more and more to expecting students to know what they want to study. And not every place expects that, but some places do. And as things become more and more competitive, especially in certain fields like computer science, people, and it is a myth. I just published on my website last week, actually, CS myth busting. So if this intrigues you, please, anyone who's listening to this can go check that article out on my website. But it is a myth that you have to have had lots of CS experience to study CS in college. But there are schools that expect that. So we need to look for those schools that don't. But to me, it is a shame that many places are looking for such specialization and looking for such strong, deep, sets of experiences in a certain field in order to have for a student to gain admission, because it's totally developmentally appropriate to not know what you want to study. Students, when they apply to college, are 18 years old and they're figuring things out, and they've had limited life experiences. Are there those who know exactly what they want to study and they're right? Yes, of course, but they're more often than not, there are students who think they want to study something and they're not exactly sure what they want to study. And then there are those who really have no idea what they want to study, and that's all good. It's all good. I mean, if the universe is good to us, we have long lives, that we have lots of time to explore and learn and grow and figure out what we want to study. And so it's not the case that at the age of 18, you have to have figured it all out. In fact, many of us are still figuring out things, right, as we go through our adult lives and professions. So
it's all a journey of becoming. And
exactly.
I'm grateful for that reminder of it. This is such useful information. Jennifer, if families are interested in reaching out and talking to you about their student and receiving some of your expert guidance, what's the best way for them to be in touch with you?
Oh, thank you for asking. So I can be reached at my website. It's www jennifer@lanterncollege.com. And there's a contact form that you can submit a form and it will get to me, or you can just write me an email directly, jennifer@lanterncollege.com, and I will get it.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's been fun.